Okay, ADD update. I was going to try to keep a day count with that, but I realized it's just not practical like with sobriety. And if it was, I may be declaring a day one right now, or day two at least. I woke up this morning in an ADD-induced depression from a lack of productivity the last couple days and still struggling to put systems in place to ensure my productivity as I've been trained on through this course I just took. But I got up this morning, I went to the gym, I went for a run, and then my Alexa just kicked in. I went for the gym and a run, and then, even though I'm supposed to be giving it up because I can't seem to moderate, but I again am trying to moderate with coffee, and I knew I had to do a little filming, even though I've proven I can do it without. I said, I'm going to go down, and I missed just hitting the mobile down the street, seeing my boy Ralphie at the front counter. So I went there, and it's phenomenal coffee in Natick, Mass, and had a great conversation with Ralphie boy. He was brought up The Shining, which I thought was funny because I'd like to write a book someday. And I say, when I do it, I'm going to have to do something like Jack Nicholson's character, just, go up and into the mountains somewhere and lock myself in for a couple years. Hopefully don't lose my mind like he did. Spoiler alert. And then he talked about, somehow it came up, The Wizard of Oz was his favorite movie. And I said, hey, what's the capital of Oz? And he had no idea, even though it's his favorite movie. But neither did I when I heard it on a trivia show recently, nor did the contestants. Because they don't really talk. I don't remember them referencing the word capital. Not that I've seen it that many times. But then when I said, well, what's the only city they talk about? He got it right away, which you should all know as the Emerald City. And he loved that. He thought it was the funnest fact. Made me feel like I contributed to society. Then I came back, swung by my sister's office, which is literally 1,000 feet away, maybe less, 200 actually. I used to have to avoid her in my drinking days because I'd have hangover face. And now I don't really stop by there enough. And I said, I'm going to go in, say a quick hello, show her this great, or have her taste this great coffee that's so good you can drink it black. And I then ran into the mailwoman, actually came into her office. I made her try. She said, well, I only drink black coffee. I said, that's so funny. I just told my sister, this coffee's so good you can drink it black. And so she tried it. She loved it. I just felt I was on cloud nine. And you know why? Because I was out of the house and engaging my prefrontal cortex, because that's where your language skills are. And that's why talking and sharing is so important. And I kind of lost sight of that. I say all the time that to overcome alcoholism, you have to replace the artificial dopamine hits from drinking with natural ones. And you have to do the same thing with ADD. That's what the medication like Adderall does. It gives you dopamine hits, and why it doesn't work for alcoholics, because we get addicted in the same way and abuse it in the same way. So I'm now trying to overcome this on my own, and I need the constant hits. And I found, I always said in the early days of sobriety, well, I still say you can get them at home when you don't want to leave your house in the early days of sobriety by cold shower finishes, or now I'm doing the ice baths, and exercise and sharing. And I've been doing the first two. I've been pretty good about the plunges. The ice baths kind of are cardio by the shivering, so I've been combining them, but that meant I wasn't getting out the house enough. So that really helped today. So this video is really about the fact, I always say sobriety is priceless, and so is feeling productive or feeling worthy or having self-esteem. I realized I've been eroding all that self-esteem and self-love I built up by doing the work in sobriety, and self-confidence has been eroding because I have not been doing the work to overcome the ADD. I've still been resistant to putting these systems in place and still thinking I can do it on my own. And I was only getting the dopamine hits via the cold shower or the plunge and occasional cardio first thing in the morning. But at best, that'll last you three hours. A cold immersion will last you 250% dopamine kick for 3 hours. But that usually is how long it takes me to eat breakfast and get settled and ready to work. So I realized I need continual dopamine hits throughout the day. Whether that means, one other thing I was doing is going out and getting sun, but just kind of walking. I need to pick up the pace, even, kind of do some running in place. I don't like to go for an actual run at that point because then I get all sweaty and all that. Although, That's another thing I can do throughout the day. Take quick 1-minute cold showers as a dopamine hit. So if I got to go out and do some cardio midday, I also don't like because it'll take me 20 minutes to get my stuff on to go for a run. But pick up the pace, get the heart racing, or just do jumping jacks or push-ups, and I'm looking at my notes. My friend from Australia calls them something like star jumps, which I Googled. They're the same as jumping jacks, but you start from a squat position. So you jump up from a squatting position instead of more from a standing position with jumping jacks. But I've always said that's even better than a cup of coffee, which I don't drink for the caffeine. I'm now drinking it more for the taste. This stuff made by coffee, it's a machine from the Lost Shoe Brewery in my hometown of Marlborough, Mass. And it's so good. I'm telling you, my mail woman was so impressed. So I realized all this and that I need to do these things to maintain my self-confidence, esteem, and self-love. And I got to crack down on doing the work. And that includes being early to bed, early to rise, because I've only been able to get in an ADD flow state, it seems, after midnight, or at least 8 or 10 p.m. And, Friday night, I worked till 4 a.m., which was great because I was so productive. But then I basically wasted all of Saturday. I didn't even get outside that day for more than literally to go run out to my car. Was the only time I even got outside on Saturday. So it's not a healthy lifestyle. I need to call it a day, whether I'm productive or not, at say 8 p.m., eat my dinner, if not even earlier, and get to bed early to bed, early to rise, and then get productive as early as possible in the morning. But the overall, I guess, message when I say sobriety is priceless is that if you don't make sobriety your number one priority, you will drink again in almost all cases. But if you do make it your number one priority, everything will fall into place. That's a quote I saw from a show, the Single Drunk Girl, phenomenal show. And it's the same, I think, with ADD. There's so many parallels. If I make putting these systems in place my number one priority, I will get productive and overcome this just as I did with drinking. And if I don't, everything will continue to be chaos, and I'll continue to have this ADD-induced depression. So, and when I say it's priceless, because I say to people, if you can afford to quit your job, if that job is a trigger for you with drinking and you can quit it, then quit it. If your family is a trigger for you, you can pretty much part ways with everyone except your pesky kids. Even your pesky spouse, certainly you should try to work at it. But if it's not going to work, or if they won't do the work with you and you need to part ways, so be it. And I need to do the same thing. I'm very fortunate that I'm able to take time from working to try to work on this stuff and work on my sobriety business for negative money right now. I luckily have some money in the bank. I'm not set for life unless you're in my dating pool, in which case I'm independently wealthy. But I am very fortunate. But that's where I say, if you can even remotely afford it, sobriety is priceless. And ideally, it's at least for me a year-long process of just attending meetings and doing the work and making it a priority. And you've got to let everyone in your life know it's a priority. And same goes, say, for ADD. And that is my message that I will conclude with. Went much longer than planned. And as always, stronger, sober. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks.